Today we're going to be talking about resume tips, specifically, just how to stand out, some common resume mistakes. We've been kind of hearing a lot about this lately, and people requesting, resume writers. So we figured this might be a good topic to chat about. So my name is Kristin Hughes. I'm a senior recruiter and director here with Odyssey. I've been here for 14 years, almost 15 years now. So I've, been in IT recruiting the whole time. Love it here at Odyssey. I focus on a lot of international roles as well as local. On the side, I also teach yoga at the Yoga Factory in Plano. So I'll be doing that at lunch today. I would love to see y'all. And Shelley hopefully will be joining me. So Shelley, go ahead and give a little bio about yourself real quick.
Yes, I'm a senior IT recruiter director at Odyssey as well. And I'm one of the kind of original founding kind of recruiters of Odyssey. I've been here 20 plus years and have actually kind of grown over the years as IT has changed and technologies has changed. I would say, I really do work a lot of those developer type roles, but we really do work across the board, everything, whatever our clients' needs are. And I've really kind of enjoyed my tenure here at Odyssey due to the relationships that I've kind of created. A lot of my success has been through networking, staying in touch with, past candidates. And of course, as technology has changed, having to source and find those new candidates as well. In my spare time, have been for the last 6 years been working out at Orange Theory. I do my 5:30 workouts 3 days a week. I do try to get yoga in. I'm not as committed at it as I should be, but anyways, and I loved it. My beach vacations, I like mountain vacations, and just currently got a new camper. So I'm a part of the Little Guy Max Club. And that's a little bit about me. And of course, can't say about the dogs, right?
Yes.
I love dogs. So
yes. Shelley has 2 right now. And then I've got 1 chocolate lab who's 2.5. So keeps me busy. Let's just start out by talking about common mistakes that we see every day, right? Shelley and I are looking at resumes all day, every day. So here's a list that we kind of compiled that pops up here on your screen. So let's just go through these really briefly, Shelley, and then we can expand later. But start at the top. Number 1, spelling errors.
Yep. We've seen where some managers, they see the errors, they toss them and go on to the next resume. So to pay attention, put your detailed hat on, look at the tense, try to stay in that same tense. If you're currently in a position, we'll use present tense. The past positions, we'll look at past tense, but that's what Kristin and I do before we send the resumes out. We're kind of looking for that. We're changing that. And I guess another thing is try to use, don't use the same word over and over. Responsible. I feel like that's kind of a bad habit that I have, even adding, so be a little bit creative, try to mix it up a little bit. I think that's important. Make sure
that, like the lack of attention to detail, right? So I would say, you live in the age where we're doing this on a computer that has spell and grammar check, right? But don't just rely on that. Read through your resume. I probably read a resume 2 times, sometimes 3, to make sure that it makes sense, that it's clear, that there's no errors. Because again, this is your first impression, right? And you only get 1 chance at that. So take the time, actually read your resume and make sure that it's representative of you. And that there's no just silly errors that you've got in there. So, anyway.
And it's good to have your education and certifications, I think, at the top. And of course, you don't have to put the date of your education,
right?
Especially if you're a senior person, take it off. And a pet peeve of mine is when I see job descriptions where for different companies, it's like cut and paste, very same, like it's like you're plagiarizing one job and putting it on the other. That is, then it makes you question if the candidate really did do that work. Did they have that experience? So don't write the very same exact sentence, and duplicate that over and over in each position. Change it up.
Yes, that is a huge one, especially with the IT roles. Sometimes it's like, even though you're a QA engineer, I guarantee you didn't do the exact same thing. The teams were different. Talk about that. Your tools were probably not used the same way. It certainly for the past 6 years has not been 16 bullet points exactly the same in each job, right? So
Yes.
these are things
Customize it,
right
right?
off the bat that are red, kind of not necessarily a red flag, but it's kind of like, why didn't you take the time, to really put your best foot forward and explain these things? So that's part of what we do is we'll get into that with you. So that kind of leads into the specific tools, right? And expertise in each role you didn't really walk through. So,
and especially if you're applying to a position and you see they're requiring these different tools, or if you've worked with those tools and you realize you haven't, put it on your resume. Show what you did with those tools. Put it under the job description. Put it under, your skills area as well. But I think it's good to show where you use them and how current your experience is with it.
Yep, 100%. I was looking. We said Foster said hello, ladies. So hi, Foster. Thanks for hopping on with us. The job father himself is here, so we are appreciative that you're here, and I'm sure you'll add some insight as we go along. Did you say customization?
Yeah, we definitely customize. As you're applying to to a certain position or role, if you are reading the job description and you have experience with something and you realize, look at your resume, like, do you talk about that in your resume? And if you don't, go and put a bullet where you did work with that skill or whatever. Don't just put it in a summary. Companies want to see what you did with it and where you worked with it. And that kind of leads me to, summaries. Don't do a one-page summary of every single thing. We know buzzwords are, you're trying to beat those ATS systems with all the buzzwords. But if you can't talk about and be teched out on what you're putting in your resume, don't put it in your resume.
Right. Yeah, that's one thing. And we'll touch on that later as well. But yeah, it's ultimately, you don't want to misrepresent yourself and then later on you look silly, whenever you're being asked a question like, oh, I see you used, React every day. Oh, well, actually I didn't, but a guy on my team did. So I've been around it. It's like, okay, well, no, that's like, we're actually looking for that here. So we'll get into that later, but we did compile just some very basic examples. I think we've got project manager resumes or scrum master resumes that we're going to share. And just kind of an example of what we're looking for and what you need to be doing in this type of position, right? So if we can pull up one of the resumes. Okay, so this example, we're calling it a bland resume, not necessarily bad, right? It's like you go through this job description, developed effective quality sprints to meet the needs with exceptional delivery, support the Scrum team to drive its evolution, organize daily 15-minute Scrum meetings. These are great things that are definitely in the job description, but every single Scrum Master job description on the planet is going to have these basic job responsibilities. So this is assumed. What did you do in this role? Like what projects did you oversee? Maybe what were some challenges you overcame? These are the things that we want to really look at more than just this generic bland, right? This doesn't stand out to us. Now let's show a different example. So this person, specifically says leading the managed checks product journey teams for mobile customers across different technologies, working with these technologies on our team, iOS, Android, using the sprints, using Jira, Confluence through collaboration. These are very specific project details, right, that we're going to look for. Managing a mobile delivery product team is extremely, very different than managing, say, a call center implementation project or a network data center project. These are very different. So talk about what you're good at. Talk about your expertise, right? I mean, do you agree, Shelley?
Definitely, because when we work on these functional roles, we're always looking for what is relatable to the client, that, like, what type of position is it? If you're a scrum over a network or a data or a cloud or a development team, we want to know that, right? Those are the resumes that we're calling and talking to, that the ones that kind of can relate to the type of team they're going to be managing and doing the scrum piece on. So
yeah,
that's somebody, if we were looking for an application development team with mobile, I mean, they would be like, wow, this is it. We're,
yeah. So it'd be like, this is who we're going to call, right? Whereas the other don't necessarily think of how many applicants there are going to be as well, right? For a typical project manager, scrum master, man, if it's a big company like then they're going to get 100 applicants, the first day. How are you going to stand out in that group? So really specify what you've done that's applicable to the job, what you're good at, what makes you stand out, right? What makes you.
I think in the old days, you could be very generic. It could be very general, but now everything is very specific. They want to know if you have the industry, what industry experience, what tools you've worked on, what type of teams you've managed. I feel like those are what make it stand out.
Yep. So cool. And then, feel free to put any questions or comments in the chat. And then we will get to those at the end, if we don't answer them for you guys. Feel free to, interact. We'd love to hear questions from y'all. So we talked a little bit about the summary. I don't, do you need an objective, right? That's kind of the old school way to do it. Do you need a summary? What is your opinion, Shelley, if you want to summarize that again for us?
I think, summaries are definitely, a short summary is nice, right? Like, don't make it crazy long and customize it to the position, right? It's basically your chance to tell them, why you're, what makes you a good candidate for this role. But I would not put an objective into the summary, because what if your objective doesn't match their objective for that position? So you might have automatically screened yourself out. So skip the objective, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Show your certifications, show what tools you've worked with, maybe the years of experience that apply, to the role, anything that's going to make you stand out as a candidate with the experience that you're bringing to the table.
Yeah, and I would say another, a common mistake I see is, I feel like, again, it's an old habit or something, that we need to use these long run-on sentences with multiple adjectives on describing me, and that's not really necessary. Just write an authentic sentence. This is who I am. This is what I do. Very basic. There's no need to just long sentences. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about. Is it necessary to include every bit of your work history? So a lot of times we get that, right? Because we're in consulting. So someone will say, well, I had 2 perm jobs, but then I worked 2 3-month contracts in between those. I really don't want to put them on my resume because it makes me look bad because of tenure. We get that a lot. So what is your opinion on that?
Well, look at it this way. You can't hide from it. If you're doing, if you're applying for a position and you have a background check, or say it's a very detailed type background, they're going to want to know when you have gaps in your history and you have to verify it. So just be honest, be real, put it on, so you're not hiding anything. And I think that's really the best approach. You can discuss it, when you get the interview, and let them know like why it was a short-term, opportunity. And it is a small world out there, especially in IT and different skill sets. I've had it before where, somebody knew somebody and, they worked with them before, and all of a sudden it like wasn't on their resume. So put it on there. I would say that.
Yeah, and you don't have to like go into long detail, right? Like I see a lot of times where it's a perm, I've been in this job for 5 years. Great. Well, you can have 15 bullets. If you work somewhere for 3 months, I don't want to see that many bullets, and they certainly don't need to be the same, right? It's like, what did you really do in your time there? 1 or 2 bullets, keep it short, keep it sweet. You can put in a line that says this was a short-term contract. But yeah, that doesn't need to be something really long, in my opinion.
Put in what you can discuss and what you can be teched out on. Like don't these resumes where they put environment and they put all these different buzzwords. Don't put it in because it's the environment. Put it in because it's a skill that you actually worked with and can talk about.
How long should a resume be?
Well, in the old days, long was good, right? Like longer, the better, the more details, the better. But now people cannot process that information. I feel like there's, the person who's reading the resume is kind of skimming it, and what they see probably in the first couple of pages or what's going to catch their eye. I would say 2 to 4 pages. It does depend on the client. Sometimes we have some clients that request 2 pages specifically, but I don't cut it where you definitely cut everything out and you don't show what you're good at. I mean, those details need to be there, but don't make it so long that the person is like stressed out.
Yeah,
looking at your resume. Like I did have an interview this last week where it was like a 10-page resume, and they had a lot of like tables. Everything was in a table form, describing. And I was so stressed out. I'm like, no, I can't
handle it. So I agree. We get that a lot. Does it have to be 2 pages? I can't fit it on there. Like, don't stress out if it goes to a 3rd page. Like, again, what's going to represent you the best? Is the information you're putting in important and representative of you and your goals? Think about these things as you're writing it. Don't stress if it's 3 pages, 4 pages, as long as it's relevant information, right? And then what needs to be on the first page, because again, I remember when I started in recruiting 15 years ago, somebody told me, you get 5 to 10 seconds scan, and then they move on, and it's like, okay. And so like they were like, you have to make their first page look super good, and I don't know if that's still true. That's just like probably a natural bias thing that people do. But yeah, that's why Shelley and I were saying education at the top, certifications next, technical tools, a short, I don't need a page of tech tools, short ones of things you've actually used, get into your job description, your current role. So that first page is really a nice highlight and a summary, maybe at the top that's 3 sentences. That's going to be a great first impression, right? That's what you think about. That first page is the first thing they look at. We kind of touched on this. Keyword matching. We do get that a lot. Like, is keyword matching important? I remember a trick like 10 years ago that I heard was write down every single keyword, that's in IT, and then copy and paste it as the last page of your resume in white so that nobody would see it. And then the ATS systems would catch it. I mean, I don't know. That's a waste of time.
Yeah, I've never done that, but
that was like a funny tip I remember from like 10 years ago. But what are your thoughts on that? I mean, we kind of said don't put it in there unless you're gonna be able to speak to it in an interview. But how important is it?
Well, I think it's important to put what you have had experience in the summary. You could put like beginner level, if you want to put a few things in there that are like pluses, and you've like done some self-training, you have a GitHub on it or whatever, you could put like beginner level training with XYZ. So they know. But a lot of times I'll see in the technology, people will put like multiple things in there, but if they go and ask about it, well, they're like, well, I don't really have hands-on project experience with that. So I just think if it's in your resume, it's open game when you're in that technical interview for the interviewer to really dive in and ask those technical questions. And that, I would say, some feedback that we've had with one of our managers who's been interviewing, especially like on software developers, their big problem has been candidates putting all these buzzwords in their resume. And then when it comes out to really tech them out on it, they can't even speak to it. So it just makes you look bad. It's better to be transparent.
Yes.
And let them know, like, this is what I'm really good at. This is what I'm bringing to the table to help the team. But boy, I'm a quick learner, and these are some areas, that I'm self-training on.
Yep. That's just about, again, representing yourself honestly, authentically. It's going to be better for everyone in the end, right? You're going to end up in a role that you're good at, that you're meant to be in. Why should you tailor your resume for each specific position? We get that a lot. Do I need to tailor it for every position?
Well, I think you need to, like we said originally, make sure you know your resume, you've read it over thoroughly, and compare it to the job you're applying to. So if everything is, you have everything in there, you don't have to customize it, right? But if you don't customize it, add a few things. Sometimes we'll have candidates who can do like BA or QA. Like they might have a resume that's more business analyst related, and kind of emphasizing those, type roles with the QA. So, I mean, in that case, you may have to customize it as well. So it's just, again, targeting. So they're going to see that you're a match for the position. And again, be real. Don't fake it, like do some fake bullets to make yourself look better.
Yes, agreed. And don't freak out too. I feel like, when we say format it for every position, people immediately in their mind go to, well, I have to do a brand new resume. It's like, no, we're not talking about that. We're, again, it's like read through it, and you reading through the preferred skills, and they're like, oh my gosh, I want somebody that's managed, a $3 million project in a mobile, app company. I'm just making things up. But like, oh my gosh, I've done that exact thing. Well, get that in your resume, add it in there. Exactly. And then put details about it. That's going to attract the person reading it immediately.
Now, a lot of the manager resumes, they want to know how big are the projects. So that's always very
the teams. Good. Yeah. So that's always good information to put in there. Details. Now, after we typically get the resume, first thing I know that I do is go to LinkedIn, right? That's just like something we do. So how does your LinkedIn profile, how does that boost your resume? How does that help you to have your LinkedIn profile out there?
I think a lot of recruiters, a lot of managers like to go and kind of check out your profile, and they like to compare it to the resume. So a big mistake that I've seen candidates that have, not updated their LinkedIn profile, or, it just doesn't match. Like the positions don't match, the, work history, the dates don't match. Update it, put a profile picture up there. Don't be afraid to do that. They want to get to kind of know you a little bit as a person. And what, do you have any extra hobbies, interests? Sometimes they're looking for culture fits too, for the team. But, we, sometimes get so excited that we'll, see a good resume. And I will have to say, sometimes I forget to go and look at the LinkedIn profile. And the times that I forgot to look, I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't know if I should have sent that candidate because that candidate's profile does not match the resume that I sent over. So now that makes me look bad as a recruiter to that client. So, if you're going to cheat, you better cheat well. It better all match. I mean,
yes, better match. And that's another thing, not to get in. I mean, it's a low percentage, but there are fake candidates now. There are fake people. Everything's a remote, right? How much of stuff is you're never even going to meet your team. So you need to have your online profile be you and be your brand, and it needs to match across all social channels. Don't need to be one person on Twitter and one person on LinkedIn and another, tell a consistent story. That's all we're saying, right? It's like, just again, be authentic. Don't misrepresent yourself. And then, make sure things are matching. Because that is just a red flag. And again, lack of attention to detail, just a lot of different things. So take the time to do that. What should you do if you feel like you're not 100% qualified? So I found this job in this company I'm really interested in, but I don't match, I don't have everything they're looking for. Should I still apply?
If you have 70 to 80% of the required skills, I would apply. I mean, I think, it's hard to, I think a lot of times employers will put everything on there and just see, how close to the requirement, they get candidates who match. But if you really don't match, like you don't match, don't send your resume. But do, like, if you have some preferred skills, that's always going to be nice. Like, make sure they see those preferred skills. And a lot of times, even the jobs that are posted aren't customized. Like we say, you have to customize your resume. Well, unfortunately, the employers aren't always customizing the job description either. So I do remember, and this is like early on Odyssey days, we were working with a client and, we were always customizing the resume to the job description. And I had submitted this candidate, it was a Java candidate, multiple times. And she had airline experience and was one of our airline clients. And I couldn't understand why she wasn't getting the job. And then finally we found out that job description was not correct.
Right. Yeah.
By the time we finally got her into this other group, they loved her and hired her. That was Margie. So
oh, nice.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
It goes both ways. Yeah, and you can't always customize it, but there's other ways and research and that you can do on LinkedIn. Use your network. Use recruiters like us. To reach out, ask questions. We're here to help you. So, speaking of questions, that kind of wraps up everything that we were wanting to kind of talk about today. We've got a couple of questions that came in. We did talk about this in the beginning, but should I mention my certifications on my resume?
Yes, that should go definitely right at the top, kind of near the education.
Yep, I agree. Right underneath it, combined with it. It's something you're pursuing. People, I put that on there. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm in pursuit of my CISSP. The test is set for July. Well, I'll put that on there if it's relevant. Right. Currently pursuing CISSP test scheduled July 2022. Yep. Put that on there. That shows that you're.
And some of the certifications, it's good to have the year that you took it because they do expire right after certain time frames.
Yeah, and I know certain technical ones like Cisco and things like that, people will still put it on there and just put expired, things like that. So one other one, which we touched on, what is the max length of the resume? We said 2 to 4 pages, is pretty much it. If you've got a 10-page resume, you need to reevaluate.
Yeah. You better have a short one too. You can send both. You can have your long one, and then you can have your short one. So
All right. Anything else?
Hey, one point I thought of. So after you send your resume and it's there kind of in the system, and everyone's sitting there kind of waiting to get a response. Do your research. Do you have anyone in your network? Is there anyone that that can validate you as a candidate, to the talent acquisition team? So go that next step. If you submitted your resume, go through your network on LinkedIn, see if you have any connections. If it's someone you're close to, send them a message. Say, hey, I just applied to this position. Would you mind putting in a good word for me with your talent acquisition team? And,
Yep.
I can't tell you, internal referrals are the ones that always beat out the competition. And even when I've had candidates, when I've had job postings, and they were, very much a match for that position, called and, brought my attention to like, hello, I sent you my resume, and I talked to them and I'm like, wow, you are a great candidate for this. I mean, I do appreciate those reach outs. So sometimes, if you really have it in your heart that you're a good match for that position, don't be afraid to kind of reach out. Don't stalk them and go crazy, cray on them, but do find a way to kind of bring your resume to the top.
Yep, for sure. 100%. That happened to me like 2 months ago. I had a LinkedIn connection and it was for a project manager position in which I had gotten like 500 applications. It was ridiculous. And he reached out and said, hey, I have a friend who applied to this. She's a great fit. And I said, well, thank you. I'll go pull her resume. And she ended up getting the job. So, I mean, you never know, right? So
Right.
Help your friends, help other people, be there for each other. And don't be afraid to reach out and connect with me and Shelley on LinkedIn. Definitely would love to hear from you guys after this. We'd love to help you if you're looking for a job. We'd love to help you if you're looking to hire people. We'd love to chat. So that's me. That's Shelley. Our phone numbers, our emails. You'll be able to stalk us as much as you like. So
Okay. All right.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. Any follow-up, feel free to reach out to us directly. Thanks so much.
All right. Goodbye.
Bye. Catch you next time.